Log on to enterpriseinnovation.net and discover a world of Asia-based IT case studies and features that will help align your business strategies. Launched by Questex, the web service focuses on vertical industry solutions in business transformation, digital technology, and mobility solutions. With over 250 Asian case studies, it offers a unique business view of IT through expert analysis. Log on to enterpriseinnovation.net.
What are the purposes of setting up an operation in Asia Pacific? Really here I'm addressing any of these comments probably to some companies that haven't been out here, not to the companies that have been established and out here for some time. And really the decision needs to be made as to what is the purpose. I can think of three reasons why companies might want to do this. Maybe their market is currently established quite well in the US, North America, in the European marketplaces. Maybe they're a company that's currently is pre-IPO and maybe looking at going to the marketplace sometime in the next 12 or 18 months. And they believe that it would have a major increase in the valuation of the company if they were to demonstrate that they had a viable international Asia-Pacific marketplace. Another reason could be to be able to provide support to some of the large potential multinational companies that may be customers of the potential company in Europe or again in the US. These could be large banks, large telcos, they could be large anything who may want to buy the product from the original vendor, but they may want to buy it out here and have it sold and supported and be able to install it in some of the major markets in Asia Pacific, some of the financial centers such as Hong Kong or Singapore, for example. And so it may be to provide support for global accounts. The third reason is really there's a genuine interest in setting up a long-term business in the Asia-Pacific marketplace. Recognition of the importance of Asia-Pacific, the growth in Asia-Pacific, the size of the markets in Asia-Pacific, and to be a true global company, a global player, that a company has to have a strong establishment of a market out here in this part of the world. I think it's important customers understand what the reasons are and don't just sort of flow into it. Don't let it just happen. Don't maybe get a phone call from a potential distributor in Japan that says, I want to sell your product and think this is a good idea and do it, because that has the potential for leading to a lot of additional costs and questions and maybe not a long-term strategy. So decide the reason why. I'm just giving you 3 examples. There could be more, and if you decide to do it, then go ahead and do it. For the smaller companies, again, looking at small companies, new companies, the example I talked about earlier could be that a large distributor in one of the more established marketplaces may have seen or heard of or read about the product on the web or attended a trade show in the US or in Europe or read something in a magazine and thought that this product would be suited to their marketplace. The local companies would be interested in distributing their product within the Asia-Pacific region. I think that's probably a way that a lot of companies start off. They get an approach from an Asia-based company, they have some meetings, some discussions, some visits with them, they see it's a good idea, and they maybe sign up 1 or 2 distributors, typically maybe within Japan, Korea, maybe India, maybe China, some of the larger markets, and they think that this would be a good way to set up a relationship. They don't have anybody local in Asia Pacific region to support that. They try to support it out of their head office or one of the sales offices in North America or in Europe, and they sort of stumble into an Asia Pacific operation. A lot of companies start that way, and whilst it can be a good start, again we need to go back to that early question that says, what is the purpose of being here? And whilst you might get started in an accidental way, I think at some stage pretty soon after you do that, you need to sit back and plan as to what your next steps are. Are you going to roll along with 1 or 2 countries? Are you going to provide support? Or are you going to establish a long-term viable operation here? It also changes depending on the type of product that is being sold. If you're looking at a product that has got high value, that is sold to a limited high-end customers, the enterprise-style customers, again, that's a product that maybe has a different sort of go-to-market approach than a product that's more consumer-based, that's more of a mass market-based, that can be taken to many customers at a fairly low price. You never really want to get yourselves locked into a purely exclusive distribution deal. No matter saying that, there are some variations to that may be important to consider. Some of the more developed, mature markets out in Asia Pacific that may be a little bit more difficult to address from Western-based companies. 2 examples I would give for that would be Korea and Japan. It's a lot more difficult maybe for Western companies to get into that without a channel than it would be to get into a marketplace in, say, Australia. Therefore, it could be very attractive to consider a exclusive, in quotes, distribution agreement with the right partner. And I say exclusive in quotes because whatever happens, you would want to set some barriers around this. The barriers could be time constraint, exclusivity guaranteed for 1 year, 2 years, exclusivity guaranteed subject to meeting certain checkpoints, revenue targets, key customer growth targets, a certain set of checkpoints that you might want to agree to. But there would have to be certain standards by which the partner would have to make that would suit your business requirements before you would consider any sort of an exclusive agreement. Over time, if the partner considers to meet these targets that should be updated on a regular basis, then maybe they have a pseudo-exclusive contract. But you always need to have the ability to change that relationship. So never lock yourself into a pure exclusive agreement. But there may be reasons why you might want to have a temporary exclusive agreement subject to a number of get-out clauses. Because they haven't been planned properly, because the relationship hasn't been set up initially, because you don't have the right people managing the strategies. If I go back to the initial question as to why you want to be in Asia, I think that's part of the reason. If you want to be in Asia and you've been approached by a company and you set up, but you're not prepared to support it, you're not prepared to help them, you're not prepared to understand the market requirements, then in most cases I think over time that's doomed to failure. You really need to understand why you want to be here, what your market is, which countries you want to address, in which countries you want to deal direct, or you want to deal exclusively through partners, or you want to have a mixed model of direct and partner model, and set up a fairly slow move into Asia as well. Don't try and expect things to happen too quickly. So set up a relatively restrictive target that says you're going to look at a couple of countries, you're going to have these in different ways. Over time you're going to grow these countries, and as you grow that, you can use the growth from those countries to fund movement into other countries. The type of countries you should move into and how you should move into it very much depends on the market and the sort of product that's being brought to the marketplace. So the strategy then needs to be established. There needs to be a set of guidelines set up with the partner, a set of rules, if you like, in place. I would strongly suggest you set up a charter with the partner that determines exactly what you both want to achieve. There's no point in going into a relationship with a partner if you want to have maximum footprint and the partner wants to get maximum margin. Sometimes those are quite conflicting requirements. So it's important to agree that you have a common strategy. That common strategy might be to move slowly in the marketplace initially, maybe to try and get some early footprint, maybe using low pricing, special support, special feature, special function to get into the market in the early days, and then later on is when you would try and increase the volume and increase margins to both parties. But there can be conflicting reasons to do that. That's why it is important to set this agreement in place with the partner. It's important to set strategic goals, to set targets to be reached and reviewed on a regular basis, maybe every 6 months, maybe every 12 months. So in the first 6 months we want to reach these targets, in the next 12 months we want to do these things, achieve these milestones, and make sure that these are targeted and monitored. And make sure you have the right people. Depending on the product type, you may need to set up a fairly strong technical support center here. If it's a fairly high-end product that needs a lot of support, at least to handle the basic calls. There's no point in having a service operation that is running to West Coast US time and opens at 8 o'clock in the morning and closes at 6 o'clock at night, when the customers are going to be running here in the middle of the US overnight, and if they have a call and they need a problem to be fixed, there's nobody to call. So you make sure that you have the right support structure to maintain that. So there's a lot of different reasons, a lot of different setups, a lot of different operations, and the reason why most partners fail or most companies fail when they come out here is they really haven't had the plans in place, they don't have the right people in place to work with, and they don't monitor their progress. No matter how good the plans are initially, you need to be able to adjust these, modify them, move them as the markets change, as the product changes, as the competitors change, as the whole environment changes around you. So keep modifying, but have a plan that you can look at and keep adjusting. Win-win-win. I refer to the three parties being the principal vendor, the partner in country, the reseller, the distributor, and the end user customer. The ideal situation is if in a certain sale situation, a product that everybody is happy with it, that the principal vendor's happy, the reseller in country's happy, and the customer's happy. And I think that can happen. I think it's naive to expect that every single relationship and even every single customer situation is going to be a win-win-win situation. But I think it can work by taking the previous steps that I've tried to cover before, deciding why you want to be here, putting a plan in place for getting out here and making sure you've got the right people in place. And as long as you maintain it and you all have the same objectives and end up with the same concepts, the same targets, the same results, and you measure those, monitor them and track them, then sure, it can be a win-win-win relationship. But it won't be in every case.